Hello everybody, this is Stephen Whitfield with Drilling Contractor, and we are here at the Ritz-Carlton in Naples, Florida. Just a few minutes off the beach here at the 2025 IADC Annual General Meeting. And with me right now is Dr. Scott Tinker of Tinker Energy Associates. Now you might remember Dr. Tinker from a video that we shot at the 2024 Offshore Technology Conference. We'll take a little link to that video in the description below. We figured we talked to him there. We had to get him on our turf here at the IADC meeting. So we're going to talk a little bit about the future of oil and gas. Very heady topic, but he's got some thoughts on where we're going to be heading in the near future. So, Dr. Tinker, thank you so much for joining me today.
Stephen, good to be with you.
All right.
Again.
Again, yes. We're becoming old buddies now at this point. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, you sort of mentioned sort of the three things that we all want energy to be: affordable, reliable, and clean. And that can be a bit of a challenge.
Yep.
So I'm going to go bit by bit here. We'll start with affordability. Obviously everybody wants affordable energy, but there are obviously challenges to sort of delivering that. So from an industry perspective, what do you think are some of those challenges?
Yeah, well, we got to keep it in perspective. We got to recognize gasoline is still cheaper than milk or water. When I go to the gas station and fill up, my bottle of water costs more per gallon than my gasoline.
Yeah.
So they've done a remarkable job of keeping it affordable. Broadening that, there's a lot more options than just gasoline now, electric cars and other kinds of vehicles. So the cost competitiveness energy is critical. To the consumer, price matters. Literally, to some folks, it's heat or eat. Cost of energy is very aggressive. It means the poorest among us spend the most proportionally of their income on energy, whether it's electricity or fuels for driving. That's what industry can play in, is making sure that we don't drive prices up to a point where a large segment of the population literally can't afford the energy that it needs to thrive.
Everything ties into everything else there, I guess.
It's all interrelated.
Yep.
And there's no perfect solutions.
Of course. So let me get to the reliability piece. Now, in your presentation here at the annual meeting, you talked a bit about like where we see our energy coming from, which resources we're going to see it coming from in the long term, in the near term. And I want to ask a little bit about sort of where you see that balance in the global energy mix. And you talked a bit about coal, you talked a bit about investment in renewable resources, where does natural gas fit and all that. So why don't we tell the viewers out there, where do you see all that fitting?
Yeah, optionality matters. We used to be more limited in our energy options, at least in the modern world. Coal drove, and then oil and gas came along. It's great having other options in: solar, wind, geothermal, hydro, which came in several decades ago. Optionality is terrific. Whether it's stocks or real estate or energy, those portfolios matter. They help keep prices down, competition. And I see more and more options coming in the future, but we like our energy reliable. And so coal, oil, and natural gas have been dominant, and they still are in the world. They're still over 80% of the world's energy mix. And the emerging economies, the ones that make all of our stuff, emerging and developing economies like Asia, are still driven by those affordable, reliable sources of energy. So it changes around the world, that mix changes, but in the long term, we're driving toward dense energy. Coal is dense, oil is denser, natural gas is denser by weight, and nuclear is the densest of all. Dense energy powers dense population.
And I'm sure our viewers in the IADC space love to hear that natural gas and oil are still playing a role moving forward.
Oh, they're vital.
Yep.
They're vital. It's hard to replace them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let me ask then about the clean part of all of this. What one might define as clean, depends on who you're talking to, I guess, these days. But you mentioned that there are trade-offs. When we talk about, we'll say for renewable sources, that there are trade-offs to incorporating more of those sources within our mix. Can you tell us what some of those trade-offs are?
Sure. Whether you're collecting energy from drilling a well for oil or natural gas, or mining for coal, or mining for uranium and thorium for nuclear, or building a solar panel, or a wind turbine, or a battery, that's all mining as well. It's all metals that come from the earth. They get made into these energy collection systems, they wear out, and we dump them back in the earth over and over. So that's not renewable. We either drill for energy, or we mine for energy, or do both, and it's not a renewable process. So we've got this word we use, renewable, and we use the word clean. Mining isn't clean. I'm a geologist, I don't mind mining, but it's a huge industrial process. So the trade-offs come in: how much do you mine, how much do you drill for, how do you process and move that energy to where it needs to be, how do you consume it, and then how long does it last to do it over and over again? And that's some of the trade-offs in clean. I think when people hear clean these days, they think of CO2 emissions, but I think about that as well as our land, our air, and our water, the big four pillars, and none of them are perfect. That's the great challenge in different sources of energy. So you got to maximize that portfolio to minimize the environmental impact.
I want to go back to what you just said about when people think about clean, they think about CO2. And it gets me to my thoughts on our information ecosystem. Now, before we shot this video, we had a lot of people coming up and sort of asking you about, what do we do with sort of advocating for this industry and sort of talking about what this industry does in an ecosystem where maybe the information might not be the most accurate, or it might be hard to kind of discern like what a specific report means or what specific data points mean. So what do you say to the people out there who might be wondering that very question? How do you advocate in this ecosystem?
Yeah, people love to pick their facts. I call that completely factual. And often people have reasonable facts. But it's very difficult to be factually complete, because you have to look at all aspects of things, and none of us can do that completely. And energy is a complex system. It's not binary. There's no clean and dirty, good and bad, even heard words believer, denier. So in the ecosystem that the energy sector works in, and some resist all of it, by the way. Some don't like any source of energy.
Yes.
But in that, as factually complete as we can be regarding the costs and the reliability and the environmental impacts, that's where we start to have good civil dialogues and conversations in that middle ground, if you will, the overlap space, about the true benefits, and all forms of energy have some benefits, and the true costs, economic costs, environmental costs, reliability costs of all forms of energy. And again, I come back and say, it's that balanced portfolio that usually is the most secure. So leaders around the world now are very much advocating for secure energy. Climate matters, but secure drives. Okay, and you're seeing that globally, even in Europe today. So this industry has done don't try to go out and be an activist, just keep doing a good job, but be very open about the downsides. Be candid about the environmental impacts and what you're doing to improve them. And then everything kind of comes out in the wash as you compare across the different sectors in that portfolio.
I think you had a phrase, the reasonable middle.
Radical middle.
The radical middle. Okay. The
radically
radical
lonely
middle.
for a while.
The radically lonely middle.
But now
they come back around.
It's really growing.
Well,
you can see it growing.
I'm sure the industry will love to hear more about that. Well, Dr. Tinker, thank you so much for giving us your insights about this. I'm sure our viewers will love to hear as much as they can out of you, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
And thank you for visiting drillingcontractor.org.